The husband found out on the wedding day that his wife was cheating on him, and after exacting perfect revenge, he mysteriously disappeared. My name is Jackson Healy, but most people call me Jack. I couldn't believe it. I stood in the doorway of the bedroom for nearly 10 minutes, watching my wife Dakota have sex with a stranger. I had plenty of time to record it with my iPhone and take some clear pictures. They hadn't noticed me yet, and from what I could see, I had time to take more notes, but to be honest, it became a bit repetitive, because I found the man seemed very familiar, perhaps because he was like me. He wasn't younger, taller, or better built than me, brown hair, blue eyes, 10 fingers and 10 toes, just like me, you know what I mean. So what was it that attracted me so much? What attracted me was just that he was not me. It sounds corny, but I came home a day early from a business trip and saw an unfamiliar car in the driveway. This reminded me of another nagging question: why did my wife's lover park in the middle of the driveway? We live at the end of a cul-de-sac with 12 houses around us. We are a friendly community. Well, doesn't she worry that someone will find out? Finding out that your wife is sleeping with another man is shocking, but what is most distressing is seeing her behave in a way she has never behaved in our 18 years of marriage. Our sex life was uneventful but satisfactory, at least that's what I thought. Until now, she has never hinted that she wanted anything different. Obviously, she likes it. In all the years I have known her, she has never said anything like this, either out of lust or any other situation. I don't even know if she knows these words. I have never received encouragement from Dakota either. For the past 10 minutes, she has been growling passionately at her lover. Strangely, I don't feel angry. I don't want to pick up a weapon and hit them with my daughter's aluminum softball bat. I am as angry, sad, hurt and confused as any husband could be, but I think the lack of anger stems from my acceptance that the marriage is over. Why she did it is probably interesting someday, but it doesn't matter now. She did it and our marriage is over. The case is closed, and I'm wondering what to do next. I notice an unopened box of condoms on Dakota's nightstand. Why buy condoms if you're not going to use them? We have 2 daughters, Sheridan, 13, and Helena, 11. Dakota told me to use the pill until I had a vasectomy. She said 2 children were enough, but I wanted a son. I always regretted not standing up for myself more at the time. Then I noticed something was missing. There used to be 4 photos on Dakota's bedside table, which I call her shrine. Now 2 are missing. The largest one is a family photo of the girls as babies, and our wedding photo. The wedding photo is the smallest. Small one, I never gave it much thought, but maybe I should reconsider. She has left her daughter's photos with her lover to look at. These are just baby photos she had framed a few years ago, probably from kindergarten. Where the photos went seems unimportant now, perhaps because of the shock or the loss of consciousness, but after some thought, I realized they should be in Dakota's second drawer. It was one of her habits to keep her expensive Drexel Heritage chest of drawers in the second drawer. I opened the drawer quietly. How was I to know that Dakota had the habit of tidying up all the mess before the scheduled arrival of the cleaner? Once I asked her if the cleaner would steal her hairbrush, and she looked at me like I was crazy. I thought it was just a quirk of hers until I mentioned it at a neighborhood party, expecting a laugh, but her friends just looked at me like I was nuts. Of course you clean before the cleaner arrives. Another thought suddenly occurred to me: maybe she hides the photos as a sign of respect. Hard to believe. Maybe her boyfriend insists on it. I don't know why. I carefully removed the photos from the drawer and decided it was time to leave with them. I slipped out of the house quietly. It was only 3 a.m., so I decided to go to the office a few days after I left. There was no doubt that there was a pile of meaningless documents on my desk. I went to the office, locked the door and shut everyone and everything out. I placed the 2 photos on the desk to remind myself. With a leap of faith, I called an old friend, Hest H. Dixon, a family lawyer I had known since university. Back then, he was a rich kid who lived in our dormitory because his parents wanted him to understand how lucky he was. I found him pretentious, as he insisted on being called N.H. Dixon had obviously done well for himself. I had to go through 3 assistants to find him, because he refused to give me his mobile number and only left it for clients to track billing times. I thought all pretentious people had at least 2 mobile phones. Jackson, I'm glad to hear from you. How can I help? Anna deliberately didn't call him Jack just to annoy him. I need your mobile number. Annis Jackson answered. His voice was full of frustration. Oh shit, what happened? Anna's tone was full of concern. Jackson told him everything. As far as I know, they're still doing it in my bed right now, he says at the end, his voice shaking with anger. Oh, shit, that's really bad. What do you want to do? Anna asks, her tone shocked and serious. Divorce is simple and straightforward, except I want her and her lover to suffer. Jackson announces, his voice firm and resolute. Well, pal, you're in luck for 2 reasons. First, I'm the best family law attorney in the state, and second, you don't live in a no-fault state. I believe you want primary custody, but it won't be easy. Not impossible, but not easy. Even if we prove infidelity, she will probably get alimony because she was a housewife and you earn a lot of money, so even in a no-fault state, you will be treated unfairly. Because she's a housewife and you earn a lot of money, you will be at a big disadvantage even in a fault state. Let me send investigators to investigate Dakota and her lover, although the cost is not cheap, but if you want custody, we need more than just the fact that she had sex in your bed. It's about her lover and all the information about his affair. Annis explained the complexity of the situation and said, go for it. I don't care about the price. Jackson responded without hesitation. You should never say that to a lawyer. Jackson, Annis warned, feeling his friend's frustration. He paused and became serious. I'm sorry, Jackson. I don't want to trivialize this. I don't want to hear apologies. Annis, I want you to be ruthless. Jackson insisted. His voice was cold and firm. I can be ruthless. This could take a few weeks. I need you to act normal to your wife. Can you do that? Annis asked, making sure Jackson insisted, his voice cold and firm. I can be ruthless. It may take a few weeks, and I need you to behave normally towards your wife. Can you do that? Annis asked, making sure Jackson understood the gravity of the situation. Yes, Jackson agreed. He gave Annis the necessary information and sent the evidence to him. Annis sent him a prepayment form, which Jackson signed and sent back via electronic signature. He was still on the phone when he hung up, more depressed but more determined. A knock on the door interrupted his self-pity. Jackson called his administrative assistant, Franny Greer. She hesitantly came in and asked, "Is everything okay, boss?" She timidly asked, "Yes, Franny, everything is fine. I finished my work early and decided to come back." Jackson replied, "I know, Jack, but when you brushed past me and ignored me, I started to worry, and you've been here for over an hour." Franny's voice was full of concern. "I'm sorry, Franny, I'm just having a lot on my mind." Jackson admitted that Franny had been his assistant for 15 years. He had hired her at Dakota's request. Franny was an old friend of Dakota's who had fallen on hard times after her husband died in the line of duty. Dakota was a non-combatant, so his insurance was only $122,000. If he had died in combat, Franny would have received $100,000. $122,000 for 2 children was not enough. It was hard for her, but Jackson never regretted hiring her. She was an excellent assistant. "Okay, Jack, I'm going home now." Franny says that, although she doesn't seem to believe it, as she is about to leave, she notices the photos on his desk and pauses at these new ones. She asks if he brought them here to remind himself why he is doing this and what is important to him. Jackson replies, trying to remain calm, "Oh, that's great, boss. Have a good evening." Franny smiles and says goodbye. Franny Jackson wants to say something, but remembers Anna's advice about acting normal. How can he act normal? A few hours earlier, he saw his wife having sex with someone else in their bed. Going to a hotel is out of the question because too many people have already seen him, so he decides to drive home. During the 20-minute drive, he kept thinking about how to behave normally, but he didn't know when to pull into the garage. Dakota heard him and greeted him at the door. Her eyes revealed fear, anxiety, and a little anger, but she quickly covered it all up with a smile. "Oh my God, Jack, you're back, we thought you were coming back tomorrow." Dakota said, "Surprise. I wanted to surprise you. I arrived around 3 o'clock and decided to finish the day at the office." Jackson replied, trying to sound casual. "Honey, we're so happy you're home." Dakota said, kissing his cheek. "Dinner will be ready in a few minutes, but there won't be much because I didn't expect you to come home." "That's okay, I'm not really hungry." I'm going to go change out of this suit, it feels like I've been wearing it for weeks. Jackson said, going upstairs. The girls caught up with him, hugging and laughing. We're so happy you're home, we love you, I love you too, I missed you so much. Jackson said their greetings gave him courage and direction, and he knew he could endure the deception for their sake. After leaving the girls, he continued back to his old bedroom. Everything looked normal, the sheets smelled fresh, the room was clean and tidy, but unremarkable. It seemed that there was a reason why their bedroom had never been touched. Dakota probably noticed that he was staring at her bedside table, the only thing missing being the 2 photos. As he tried to control his emotions, she startled him with her voice. Sorry, honey, I accidentally broke the frame while cleaning. I took it to Aaron Brothers to get it fixed. Dakota explained carefully, her tone neutral. I just nodded, not looking at her, and continued getting dressed. She left without saying when, and just in case you were suspicious, she smelled as fresh as a daisy, just as she always did when I came home. My performance was not convincing, because Dakota was on edge all evening. I avoided her for the most part, spending time with the girls instead, helping them with their homework. At dinner, the usual buzz and noise fell eerily silent. The girls wondered what was wrong, but didn't press. Dakota wore an inscrutable mask. If I was going to pretend everything was normal, as Anal hoped, I needed to do a better job. After the girls went to bed, I poured myself a glass of Maker's Mark and plopped down in the worn office chair, my man cave and the only room in the house I can call my own, reflecting my taste. Dakota calls it awkward. I know I have to face her before I go to bed, but I don't know how it will be when she comes in. She usually avoids my room and heads for the sofa opposite, where she sits in my chair. Come here and sit on my lap, I say, patting my knee gently. Her face brightens instantly and she quickly sits on my lap. I kissed her cheek and apologized for being so awful at dinner. My trip hadn't gone as planned and I had a lot of things to deal with. I just needed a break. She perked up and said it was okay. Jake, I know you're troubled, let me help you forget your work troubles tonight, but she didn't let me forget my problems. We made love, as tender and intimate as ever, and we snuggled together, both of us seemingly content. I thought that was what she wanted, which was a complete change from what I'd seen before. Dakota wrapped her arms around me and said, You know I love you, Jack. I really do. You make my life complete. I almost threw up. How could she lie so easily? Her deception came out of her mouth like a recipe. The answer shocked me. She had been doing this for a long time. The discovery made me shudder, and my chest felt heavy. A few minutes later, she fell asleep peacefully, while 8 hours earlier she had been in this bed with her lover. Now she fell asleep immediately. What kind of person could do that? Needless to say, I didn't sleep at all. I managed to pull myself together and went to work. I had to be out of the house before Dakota woke up and get the girls ready for school. I left a note on the kitchen whiteboard telling them that I had to go to work early to start working on those problems I told you about. Somehow, I managed to act normal for the next 2 weeks, waiting for news from Anise. I started to feel better, and maybe that's what makes a good liar out of a bad one. Dakota, on the other hand, became increasingly anxious. She looked preoccupied, but never confided in me. She was always enthusiastic, but seemed to be deliberately sensitive. She might say, I love you, 25 times a day, and even complimented my outfit. She was supposed to be upset about the lost photos, but she insisted on the don't ask, don't tell principle. I hoped this would last for a while. Franny is acting very strangely. She knows me so well that she can detect any changes in my mood or behavior. She keeps insisting that I talk about it, which annoys me. I told her that I'm under a lot of pressure at work, but that I'll be fine. She always knows when I'm lying. What also bothers me is that she keeps staring at the photo on my desk. I've long since learned that I'm not good at reading women's emotions. I couldn't tell if Franny was sad, worried or angry, but her expression always looked strange after she looked at the photo. I think women are better at this than men. I began to question my sanity. I felt numb and detached, as if a 50-pound stone were pressing against my chest, making it difficult to breathe. I pretended to be desperate for this nightmare to end quickly, and then Annis called me and asked me to urgently go to his office. Yes, we have cornered them, but you must be prepared. Jackson, Anna said that she had been dating Mr. Dway a long time ago, even before you got married, but according to my information, he bragged that on the morning of your wedding day, he boasted that she told him that on your wedding night she would give you her body. His voice was full of disgust. I should be furious, but I just want to ask, how did your investigator find out? I said, trying to keep my voice steady. You'd better not know, Jackson. Anyway, a lot of good stuff can't be used in court. If I'm not a good lawyer, we could be in trouble. He said, trying to lighten the mood with laughter. The mood, to lighten with laughter. Damn it, kids, I want to know if they're mine. I muttered to myself, and from the look in his eyes I realized that I knew there was more bad news, that this was not all. I asked, afraid of his answer, my God, Annis, maybe she married him too, and is one of those bigamists who have 2 families. I speculated about this absurd situation. It dawned on me, OD Duo is married, but not to your wife. He has his own family, married for 10 years, with 3 children under the age of 8. If you want, it's easy to expose him. Annis explained, I didn't know Annis, I didn't want to ruin his wife and children's lives. I said, feeling a wave of guilt. Jackson, if you watch Dakota and his video, you'll do them a favor. You'll see that he's tearing you and your wife apart. Dakota isn't involved much, but she's not stopping him either. He only married his wife because Dakota would never, ever leave you for him, Annis said firmly. Annis, why does she want to stay married to me? I asked in a tone of confusion and hurt. We haven't figured it out yet, but we're working on it, so please give us time, he assured me. I can't control myself anymore. When can we serve her? I demanded. My patience is running out, Jackson, but I'm trying to do something worth waiting for, Annis promised. Life goes on. Dakota is very affectionate and keeps the girls in line. And we had sex more often, but the same way. She always seemed so happy, and I didn't think she could fake it for so long. It made her betrayal all the more disturbing. I was going crazy trying to figure out how she could say one thing and do another. I decided I would just fake it until I could end it. Honestly, he would be calling my office on Monday anyway. Annis was usually a joker, and he looked like he was not feeling well. He nodded slowly. Look, Jack, I don't know what to tell you, but it may change your mind about custody. Annis started to speak seriously. Not me. Them? I asked. The fear grew stronger. We need a DNA test to be sure. But no. I don't think they are. It got worse, he said, his expression darkening. How much worse? Annis, I asked, my voice almost a whisper. They know about Jack, Annis answered. What do you mean? I interrupted impatiently. The girls consider Duo their father. We have video of Du Bois and the girls having a picnic in the park last Dubbo, and the girls had a picnic in the park, and they called him Daddy. He held your wife's hand and kissed her, and played with Sheridan and Helena. Annis's voice became soft and compassionate. When I woke up, it was pitch black. I remember clearing the lawn last Sunday, and Dakota telling me she was taking the girls to the park. Annis applied a cold towel to my forehead and called my name. Jackson, what's wrong? You've lost consciousness. Let me call the paramedics. Annis said, his voice was panicked. No, I'm fine. I shook my head to try to clear my thoughts. I'm sorry, Annis. It feels like my whole life has been a lie. I said, my voice was hollow. Man, you just said the magic word, Annis replied. A glimmer of hope flashed in his eyes. I asked, what word? Confusion. Fraud. If I were you, I'd want revenge. Warn his wife. Divorce isn't enough for Dakota. Did you know you can annul a marriage for fraud? He explained a plan. We've been married for 18 years. Andrus, how can I file for divorce now? I sounded skeptical. The length of time doesn't matter, you just need to file within 4 years of discovering the fraud. It's not easy, but it's worth a try. You won't have to pay alimony after a divorce, and you probably won't have to pay child support either, but that depends on the judge. He clarified the issue of child support carefully. Unless we prove that Dakota and Du Bois have cheated you out of child support, you may be in trouble, but that's not the main reason to pursue a divorce. The divorce will not be public, but child support after 18 years will publicly humiliate them and help us get child support compensation. In addition, I can get 40% of the child support, and I can even give you a 5% discount. You will get the ruthlessness you want. Anna said, with a hint of a smile, your generosity is touching. Anais, I said, tapping my heart ironically, it's not over yet. Jack, we've discovered something even more interesting. He said, leaning over. I listened to him, and then we made a plan. Nothing could shock me then. When I returned to the office, Franny ambushed me. Jack, what's wrong? You look terrible. I'll take you to the doctor now. Franny insisted on her concern. Obviously not Franny, I said, trying to reassure her, but Jack, she insisted, didn't believe it. Miss Grawl, I told her in a shocked tone, and she left reluctantly, looking very frustrated. I didn't care, because I had already scored a hit in Anna's office. I had expected it, and the result didn't disappoint me. I hadn't let Franny go for less than 30 minutes when Dakota appeared in the doorway. She was not wearing a bra, had 4-inch heels on and a very low-cut neckline. God, she was beautiful, it was a shame. Franny called me and said something had come up. Dakota interrupted her with a sarcastic snort. She glanced at the photo and seemed to know where to look, and I tried to remain calm. She sat down at my desk, also apparently not wearing underwear. Does she really think this will help you? You can see us there, she said, looking sad but speaking normally. Her words stung. It doesn't mean anything, Jack, it's just a fling, nothing like the way we feel together, she added. Tell me, Dakota, how long have I been asking? This isn't the first time, honey, but only a few months. She almost sounded sincere. 2 months. How many times have I pressed? Only 3 or 4. Baby, it was never going to work in our house. I screwed up. It's over. Let's just forget about it. She lied effortlessly, without guilt, without sweating, without fidgeting, without looking away. I realized she wasn't going to give up her boyfriend. Thanks for your honesty, Dakota. Most liars would say this is the first time, but you said what you really thought, and I appreciate that. I said, keep up the friendly face. Her last words to me hardly faltered, but she seemed to sense something. Come on, Jack, this won't end well for you. You'll get hurt in unimaginable ways. Just let it go and let's move on. I love you, you love me, and we both love the girls. Please, just let it go, she pleaded. That sounds like a threat to me, Dakota. I noticed. Oh, honey, I'm sorry if I meant that your failure to control me would hurt us, but most of all, Jack, it would hurt Helena and Sheridan, who have done nothing wrong. I'll talk to you again tonight, and I know we can work this out. She suggested. Okay, we'll talk again tonight, but right now I have to get back to work. I replied, and she kissed me passionately, perhaps mistaking me for her boyfriend. We're so good together, baby, don't let my weakness destroy our family. She turned and walked out, walking very smoothly as if she and I were in a state of shock, sat there for 5 minutes before pressing the intercom. Miss Grayle, come in. I said. Franny came in, her eyes red and puffy. How long have you known her? You told her about the photograph, didn't you? I asked her to keep quiet. She wiped her eyes with her handkerchief and sat there, head bowed. I'm waiting for your answer. I said firmly. She looked up and tears ran down her face. So I'm Miss Grayle now, then? Jack, after all these years, she asked, her voice trembling. Shaking her head, she said, yes, I'm Mr. Healy now. I'm coldly answering, are you going to fire me, Joe? I mean, Mr. Healy, I really need this job, she sobbed. Unless you give me an honest answer and agree to testify to my lawyer, what are your options? I asked my patient, who was thin and whom I had known for a long time, and she admitted it. Her voice was barely audible. I picked up the office phone with disgust. Hi, Georgina, I need to talk to William about an issue. I said. William, Franny asked. Her voice was full of panic. Bill Cody, Vice President of Human Resources, I clarified. Franny interrupted me. Her eyes were full of despair. Please don't do this. I'm sorry, Mr. Healy, but I knew about this before you hired me. Known about this, she cried. What do you know, Ms. Grawl? I asked, my voice getting stronger. She hesitated again. I slammed my hand on the table. The loud noise startled her. I was running out of patience. You know about her activities, I demanded. I'm fed up with these games, Ms. Grawl. Now tell me the truth, I insisted. I saw her struggle. I'll accept only the full truth from Annie, I said, in a softer tone. Franny. You owe me this because I helped you, and I need to know why you betrayed me. It took her a moment to gather her thoughts, but then she told me everything. Byron Du Bois was her mother's cousin, and she knew about his relationship with Dakota from high school. She knew that Helena and Sheridan were not my children, and that Du Bois had deliberately done it. Each revelation felt like a dagger in my heart. Not only was Dakota betraying me, but Franny was betraying me, too. Her betrayal hurt even more. I trusted you completely, you, Franny, and I said something sentimental. Why did Dakota want me to hire you so badly? She wanted me to let her know if you found out about the other part of her life. Franny lowered her head and said apologetically that she also wanted me to tell her if you cheated on her. She whispered, for God's sake, you know why she wanted to marry me? She was here a moment ago professing her love and begging to continue the marriage. I asked irritated, you won't believe this, but she really loves you. Franny replied, I laughed coldly, disbelieving, but now it's true. Mr. Healy, I asked her a few years ago and she said she loved you, but she also needed Du Bois. Franny explained that she ruined my life because she wanted your cousin. I said in shock, and Franny nodded, why, child? Annie, I pointed at her and told her to go on. Are you sure you want to know? She said it was much worse than you could imagine. People always tell me that, so how much worse could it be? I asked her, and her tears stopped. She looked at me with pity, but without lying or hiding anything. Dakota had gotten Byron pregnant so that her children would have alpha genes. She paused, gauging my reaction, so I was a beta. I asked her, feeling the absurdity of the situation, yes, she wanted alpha blood, but hoped that a beta like you would raise them kindly. She believed that your character was better suited to raising her children. Byron agreed, she needed both alpha and beta to feel complete. Franny explained, I couldn't help laughing, this is ridiculous. I'll help you make an appointment with Johannes, I hope you can tell the whole truth. She said, she nodded and walked away. She paused and turned to me and said, should I tell Mr. Dakota Healy? She asked. You can call me Jack Franny. I don't care what you tell her, it doesn't matter anymore. Good night. I said, wait. I don't care, but do you think I'm a coward? I asked almost as an afterthought. She started crying again. Yes, but it's not a bad thing, that's all. Mr. Healy, she turned around with a sob, hurried away, and closed the door behind her. I didn't know what I was going to do, but I knew I wasn't going home. I called my friend Butch, hoping she was still at the office, and luckily she was. I went to see her. Let me introduce Butch. Her real name is Cheyenne Gillette. She is the head of Butch's company. She is a retired U.S. Navy commander and the first female graduate of Butch's Naval Academy. An injury to her knee ended her chances. She is as tough as nails. She doesn't get close to anyone at work. She is a proud and determined lesbian, although she prefers called queer. One day she told me, if you're going to call me a lesbian, please make sure it's with a capital L, but I prefer the word queer, and when you say it, smile. I didn't quite understand, but we became friends, and I was the only friend she had at work. Our friendship began when I saw a caveman abusing her outside the break room. She'd had enough and pushed him away. I believe in live and let live, but this guy had crossed the line. When she saw me, she turned pale and realized she might be in trouble. I said calmly, you know, Miss Gillette, he shouldn't have pushed you like that. Are you all right? She smiled and whispered something to the man, and as she walked past me, she said, call me Butch. That's what all my friends call me. 3 days later, the man was fired and never showed up again. We became friends after that. When I accidentally called her Butch at a management meeting, I thought I'd screwed up. You could hear a pin drop, I thought my career was over, but it wasn't. She replied, okay, Sundance, everything's fine. If you're Butch for life. Damn Sundance, you look like shit. After that incident, Sundance became my standard greeting. There were rumors in the office that a lot of drama was going on in your department, to put it mildly. Butch, I sat down in my chair in a low mood. I needed a place to rest for a while. Can I stay with you and Becky? Sure, Jack. I'll have to discuss it with her, but no problem, we have plenty of room. Tell me what's going on. I told my story, leaving nothing out when I mentioned Franny's betrayal and my plan to fire her. Butch raised her hand to stop me. You can't fire her, Jack. You'll expose us to a wrongful termination lawsuit, or worse, if she claims you're retaliating against her for a personal problem unrelated to work. Butch said. Butch, she set me up. There's nothing I can do about it, I demanded, my voice full of frustration. Relax, Jack, I've got a better idea. Make a deal with Bill to transfer her. I need a new administrator. Butch gave me an evil smile and offered to raise her salary so she couldn't claim abuse. You said she needed the money. I couldn't help laughing. It was the first good news I'd heard in a while, and it might mark the beginning of my recovery. Butch had been working here for about 5 years and had gone through 12 or 13 administrative assistants. She had tried to file complaints and lawsuits on the first few attempts, but had been unsuccessful because Butch had an impeccable record and treated everyone harshly. Among the staff, she was known as the Angel of Death because working for her meant you were dead. That night at their house, I had to tell the whole story again. Becky listened sympathetically, while Butch became more and more angry. I was glad she was on my side and calmed down after hearing the story. I told them about my conversation with Franny after I left with Dakota. Oh, that quiet Chew girl would love working for me. Jack, Butch said with a smile. I decided to cut to the chase and asked Franny what she thought about being a beta. Was it a male trait? I asked Butch and she rolled her eyes. Of course you're a beta. Jack wanted to know what that meant. A beta male is an amazing lover because he cares about his partner's needs in bed. He is loyal, a good father, can talk to his wife about things other than sex, he cares deeply about his family, he does the laundry, keeps his things in order, is reliable and not controlling, he is not threatened by his wife's independence. Frattini is paying you a compliment, not an insult, she explains. But what about Dakota's comment about the alpha gene? I ask. Becky interjects, still confused. For peace of mind, you need to ask Dakota about this, you need to know her motives, I ask. Relax, Jack, let me explain. Do you consider Butch to be an alpha or a beta? Becky asked, quite definitively, alpha. I answered confidently, you're wrong. She's an alpha at work and a beta at home. Why do you say that? I've been with her for years and she's been like a beta at home. Becky explained, I'm surprised. I looked at Butch and she nodded with a smile. Yes, Jack, in our relationship I'm the alpha. Butch lets me control our relationship. She's the alpha at work, which makes her the beta at home. At home, we both switch between alpha and beta depending on the situation, unless you're a sociopath. Becky said, with admiration in Butch's eyes. I remember Dakota having a similar expression. Maybe Dakota was right, she needs both of us to be complete. Butch sat on Becky's lap and they started kissing passionately. I started to leave, but don't go, Jack, they said at the same time, smiling. It's true, Jack. Becky's in charge here. Butch said with a smile, all these feelings? I asked, trying to understand. After listening to you, I believe that Dakota loves me and needs me, but she lied to get what she wanted and turned my life into a lie. I will never forgive her. I said, my voice firm and resolute. So what's next? What about your children? They love you and you love them. You can't abandon them because of what their mother did. Becky pointed out, I don't know, Butch. All I know is that Dakota and I are getting a divorce, and nothing is going to change my mind. I know it's selfish, but I'm going to hurt Dakota and her lover. What do you think Franny's role is in all this mess? I asked Becky, and she fell silent, but Butch said something. Fry's betrayal was worse for its betrayal, Dakota's actions were driven by her ideas of love and need, and Franny's betrayal was well thought out and unforgivable. Leave it to me, Butch said decisively. I nodded, knowing they understood me. I'm going to go to bed now, thank you for letting me stay. I felt a sense of relief. My phone had been ringing all night with texts and calls from Dakota. The next day, I was at the office and didn't read or respond to any of the 20+ messages. I arranged for Franny to transfer to Butch, and she was scheduled to start on Monday. May God have mercy on her soul. In the meantime, she was sent home with pay. I continued to stay with Butch and Becky until the weekend. They were very supportive, and I'm very grateful. I ignored all attempts by Dakota to contact me and instructed the security guard to keep her away from the office and the parking lot. A few days later, Montana, Dakota's sister, showed up at my office. I forgot to mention her to the security guard. Montana never liked me, and the feeling was mutual. She always wore a smug smile, as if she knew something I didn't. Without an administrative assistant, she walked into my office without notice, wearing the same smile. Maybe today I can wipe the smile off her face. What do you need, Montana? I asked, trying to hide my irritation. Can I at least come in and sit down? She asked. Of course you can, but don't get too comfortable, you won't be here for long, I said, pointing at the chair. Listen, Jack, I know we're not best friends, but please just listen to me for a few minutes, and then I'll go, Montana said, sitting down. You know she loves you, Jack, and she would do anything to make up for her mistakes. Do you believe she loves you? She continued. I couldn't help but laugh. Montana, I believe she loves me, but that doesn't matter, I only have contempt and disgust for her. I replied. You're such an idiot, Jack, you always have been. I don't know what she sees in you. She said angrily, Montana, we agree. I don't know what she sees in me. I did my best as I could, and I said I didn't want to fight with you, Jack, because you didn't want to talk to her. She wrote this letter to me and handed me a thick white envelope with the words, "To my dear Jack," written on it in Dakota's handwriting. I sighed, stood up, walked enthusiastically to the paper shredder, put the unopened letter in, and said to Montana with a grin, "You're a stupid, naive boy, Jack, and you're causing yourself and your family pain." She stormed towards the door and shouted, "Hey, Montana, before you go, do you want to tell me about Brockton Boseman?" I asked. She froze for a moment, then slowly turned around. I don't know what you're talking about. Her arrogance had vanished, and her voice was desperate. Your husband Troy would definitely be interested, she said. I started to say, no, Jack, please. She interrupted me, breaking down. This has nothing to do with Troy. I just want to help Dakota. She really loves you. Tears rolled down her cheeks. Am I really helpless? She asked. Her voice was choking. You weak Montana, if you don't tell Troy everything or try to hide the truth, he'll get all the evidence I have, but since I'm being so generous, you have 1 week to convince Troy to accept your lifestyle, and if he tells me personally that he doesn't care, he'll get everything I've said, and that's the ultimatum. Jack, please, I know you don't believe me, but I really love Troy, he means everything to me. She pleaded, yes, I've heard it before, I coldly 5 minutes later, she went from arrogant to pathetic, I even felt a little guilty, although it seemed strange, Montana, I believe you, so I'll give you a week, if I don't think you love him, he'll receive a big package tomorrow. I said Jack, no, please, are your 2 children really his? I asked Montana, you don't understand, it's not what you think, let me explain. She said I got my answer, you have 1 week, goodbye, Montana, close the door when you leave, I said, started rummaging through the files, unable to look her in the eye. I didn't really know Troy, but he should have known. Anna's people found out that Montana was a few years older than Dakota and had a similar lifestyle. Maybe Dakota got her inspiration from her, or maybe from their mother, it didn't matter. The door closed. I picked up the fake eyes. Annis burned them. I said, man, that's great news, but Jackson, you've got some tough decisions ahead of you. Annis replied, none of this is easy. None of it. Annis, what's next? I asked, feeling the gravity of the situation. Propose a divorce settlement. It's win-win. We have the evidence, Franny made her statement, file the petition directly, attach the affidavit, and serve her. I'll make sure the press knows, but you'll have to give up all access and custody of the children, no alimony or child support, and it'll be like they were never in your life. He paused. Unless she lets you have access after a DUI, which is unlikely. You can't half-ass this after we're cut off, Jackson. Either you go through with this or file for divorce and then become destitute. What will it be, partner? He asked. Damn, things are only going to get worse. Anais, I need to think about it. I'll contact you in a few days. I said I need time to process everything. Okay, Jackson, but I can go now. Don't be like that, Anais said calmly and confidently. At first I loved my daughters very much. When they called Duo Dad, I was very angry. Then I realized that it wasn't their fault, that they just knew they had 2 dads who loved them. Who knows what Dakota told them? I didn't know what to do. That night I talked to Butch and Becky, but they didn't have any answers. For the girl's sake, I was leaning toward a divorce. Dakota made my decision easier. She talked to Montana after work. I went to the Horse's Head pub and grill for a drink. It was usually quiet there, and I needed to think. But my thoughts were interrupted. "Hello, Jack." "Dakota, we need to talk, Jack, but first I want to show you something. Please come outside with me," she said, walking towards the door without waiting for an answer. What the hell is wrong with me? I put $20 in a shot glass, waved to the bartender, and followed her outside. In the bright afternoon sun, she pointed to the Chevy SUV and asked, "Do you see it, Jack?" I asked her. I looked around the parking lot and saw Du Bois and Sheridan and Helena in it. He looked sour, but didn't look at me. My girls looked at me in despair and cried out, "Drunk driving," started the engine and drove away. Oh my God, what has Dakota done? I muttered to myself. If you and I don't come to an agreement now, Jack, this will be the last time you see your daughters. Dakota said with full venom, "If you divorce me, I'll get custody." "Oh, you'll get visitation rights, but I'll do everything I can to prevent that. I'll accuse you of destroying our family, and when I'm done, they'll never want to see you again." Despite everything I'd done, I was still stunned by her audacity, especially when it came to Sheridan and Helena. "Dakota," I asked, "I want us to get back together. Jack, I want my family back with you. You just have to accept Byron into my life." She replied, "I know they're not my daughters." "Dakota," I said, trying to remain calm, "of course they are Jack's. I loved two men and never knew who the biological father was, but I know you are the best person to raise them." She retorted, "You're still lying to me, Dakota. I can always tell when you're lying." I said, "You're wrong, Jack." "What makes you think you can tell?" she asked, her voice raised. "Because your lips move when you lie," I said. It took her a moment to realize. "Jack, you stupid vindictive bastard, just wait until we go to court." I turned and left quickly. As I left, I walked straight to my car. I called Anis and said, "Anis, go ahead, Anis, get a divorce. I'll stay with you until the end and burn that pile of crap too." He didn't have time to answer before I hung up, and it was clear that Dakota would use the girls against me, no matter what I chose. I had no choice but to end it, and maybe in a few years I could convince Sheridan and Helena. I didn't know what would happen when Dakota sued. I moved out of Butch's house and into a hotel, taking care of all the administrative and financial matters. Hearst was going to issue her a temporary restraining order that would last a few weeks until the hearing turned it into a permanent restraining order for 3 years. Anis wanted her to violate the restraining order and come to where I worked to yell at me or, better yet, to punch me. He even suggested that if she hurt me, it would be a win-win situation. Sometimes I wonder whose side he's really on. All that was left was to serve her with the papers and wait for the hearing. 2 days later, just as Anis had hoped, Dakota stormed through security, barged into my office, started throwing things around, cursed and swore, and slapped me several times until security subdued her and called the police. Anis was disappointed that she hadn't been able to hurt me more, but thought we could still get a permanent divorce. The divorce hearing was scheduled for 60 days later. Anis made sure that all the media knew the time, place, and what would happen. Dakota's lawyer tried to keep the public out of the hearing, but the judge, who was facing re-election, refused the request. He was right. Mediation is a win-win situation. He delayed the hearing in dramatic fashion to ensure a successful mediation. He got a talk show and increased ratings for his gossip column. 6 days after talking to Montana, her husband Troy came to see me. "I'm not as strong as you, Jack. I love her and want to give her a chance. Our kids are grown and about to go to college, but I still need them around. I'm too old to start over." He was excited. "You can't keep play with yourself. I'm afraid I can't handle it if I see it." His voice was full of confusion. "Maybe I'll need it later. You know the kids aren't yours, right? She told you, didn't she?" He nodded in agreement. "Troy, is she still planning to sleep with her second husband?" He shook his head, but kept his head down. "My children, Jack, no matter who the seed or the liquid donor, I am their father. I can't give them up. She said she would give up this lifestyle if I continued to be with her. It's strange, but I think she really loves me. It's different, I understand Troy, maybe you're stronger than both of us, I just can't leave it." He nodded solemnly, shook my hand, and left. I never saw him or Montana again, they moved out of state the day the kids graduated from high school. The same day I met Troy, Mrs. Byron Dubb received a thick package in the mail from FedEx. Things moved quickly for Mr. Dubois. Maybe I made a mistake, because when the court ordered Dubois to pay child support to me a few months later, but he went bankrupt. Anis almost had a heart attack when he learned that he would only get 40% of the $250 a month. Anis said he was so angry that he rescinded the 5% discount promise. When I asked him about the income from the stand-up comedy show, he calmed down. About 6 months after the divorce, I contacted Dakota and asked if I could meet to talk. Everyone tells me it needs to end. I have questions. We met at the Horse's Head. Are you serious about what you did to me and Byron? If you whisper to my daughters, you'll never see them again. I'll ban you so fast it'll make your head spin. Dakota said, her voice shrill and full of anger. What you did to me was a bit paranoid. I took a deep breath and responded, arguing is not the way. What if I lift the restraining order and agree to fund the girls' college education? I know you and Byron are working hard, and as you said, they shouldn't be responsible for anything. I want them to have the opportunity to go to a good college. I saw her attitude soften a little. I don't know, Jack, she said, her tone hesitant. Look, Dakota, if you want to go away for the weekend, I can even take care of the kids. I know they're at an age where they don't need looking after, but I just want to stay in their lives, show them I still love them and explain why I did it. I promise I won't say anything bad about you. I just want to say that you want a different lifestyle and we both think it's better to be apart. I said, try to make up. Let me think about it. She replied, almost back to her normal tone, Dakota, can I ask you a few questions? It may not be a big deal, but it's bothering me, and I hope you can answer me. Please tell me the truth, it won't change anything. Things, I continued, hoping to get some clarification, whatever. Jack, she said, beginning to grow impatient, her attitude infuriated me, but I didn't need her to do anything. Why did you practically ruin my life, for what? She let out a heavy sigh. You did this to yourself, Jack, she said, sensing that I was ready to explode, raising my hands. She continued, I know that my behavior separated us, but you used a scorched earth policy on me. I had no choice. You tore my soul apart and fed it to the wild dogs. I certainly hope you'll be hurt, but I think we'll discuss and resolve the problem like adults. You know that Troy and Montana are still together, right? People talk, Jack, and they work out their problems. I said, trying to convince her, to be fair, that Dakota Montana had told him that she would leave her lover, not that I believed her, to make their marriage work. You told me that I had to accept Byron's presence in your life. I added, noticing the unfairness, which obviously hurt her. She changed tactics. I didn't mean to hurt you, Jack. You must admit that before you met me and Byron, you had always thought you had a good life. I helped you find that life. I love you deeply. My heart broke when you left me. She said, trying to evoke nostalgia in me. This begs a big question, why do you need both of us? I asked, searching for the truth. I don't know, Jack. She said, taking a deep breath. Some of my sister's friends and I have done it. You may not know it, but this lifestyle is becoming more and more accepted. Oh, please. I snorted derisively. So why didn't you discuss it with me before we got married? Oh, did you really have sex with Dubois the day you got married? First of all, who? You may not know it, but this lifestyle is becoming more and more accepted. Oh, please. I snorted derisively, and then said, why didn't you discuss this with me before we got married? Oh, did you really have sex with Dubois the day you got married? First of all, who told you that? That's a complete lie. I would never do that. She said, looking incredulous. Second, if I had told you, would you have agreed to marry me? No, you wouldn't have. I love you very much, but sometimes I just want to have sex. Don't get me wrong, I like what you do in bed, but you don't really want to be with me, and you don't worry about hurting me. I understood that she wasn't talking nonsense, but obviously I wasn't going to get a satisfactory answer, so I pressed on. What else could she say that made sense to explain why she had to have sex with him in my bed? I pressed on. I know you won't believe me, but this was the first and only time we were in our house, let alone in our bed, she said, raising her eyebrows. I kind of believed her. Okay, why? I asked, rubbing my temples. She sighed, this time sadly. Byron and his stupid alpha tendencies. He just needed a push. In a moment of weakness, I gave in. Stupid, 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 she said, close to tears. She was close to tears, by the way. About the alpha and beta, oh God, Jack, maybe you'll leave it, you're an amazing husband, father and lover, so why have children? Don't tell me it wasn't intentional, I know better. I said I urgently wanted answers. She at least looked guilty before answering. Jack, you're basically an obscure middle manager in a medium-sized company, for God's sake, you drive a van. Your so-called fun is sitting at home in a shitty man's shed watching telly. Byron, the so-called fun is chartering a jet to go to a game or a weekend in Las Vegas. Byron drives a Corvette and owns, or at least used to own, a successful business. This lifestyle is intoxicating, but not conducive in the long run. She tries to justify her choice. Yes, but you're with him, not me. I'm afraid it won't last long. I ask if she's happy, and she doubts it. Yes, full-time living with that arrogant idiot is different from part-time. Besides, he's a terrible father. She admits that there's a crack in her decision, as I expected. Dakota, I don't feel sorry for you. You really are asking for it. Your own bed. I said I felt vindicated. Listen, Jack, no, I screwed up, the little escapade with the girls at the bar. I know I was stupid, but I was desperate and decided I had nothing to lose. God, I wish I could undo that part, if not everything else. She admitted, her voice full of regret. She was silent for a moment. As for me, I didn't feel anything about this conversation, so fuck the ending. I started to stand up and leave Jack. Wait. She grabbed my hand. I still love you, always. I want you to know that if you come back to me, everything will be fine. I promise, I will never see Byron again. I will spend the rest of my life making it up to you. She pleaded, her voice full of hope and despair. I pulled back my hand, stood up, looked down at her, and hugged. I'm sorry, Dakota, it's too late for that. Thank you for meeting me. Think about what I said to the girls. Goodbye, Dakota. Jake, please wait. Don't go. I need you in my life. I didn't turn around. I never received a response from Dakota to my offer. Hell, I don't know if she's still working with DUI or living on the streets. I don't care. But the ignorance of Helena and Sheridan continues to haunt me, driving me crazy sometimes. They're innocent. Pawns in a story. In the story. Am I doing the right thing? I'm sitting in my favorite dive bar in the neighborhood, a Mellow, and I've already downed my second Jack and soda with club soda, and a Mellow has poured me another one, then shaken his head in exasperation. It's been 2 years since that incident, and I still feel sorry for myself. If I hadn't left a good tip, he would have thrown me out long ago. It's amazing how he greets me the same way every night when I come in. Mr. Sunshine is here. Don't drain my place dry again today, okay? Jack obviously doesn't think I'm the life of the party. The drinks are on the lady at the end of the bar. He turns his head to the left. Are you going to go crying in her arms and make a fool of yourself? She'll run off like everyone else, and I'll lose money. You idiot, he muttered to himself as he walked away. I think Merlot has replaced Denise as my best friend. I turned around and saw Franny walking towards me, which surprised me. I stood still and watched her. I'd only seen Franny a few times in the company building, and I tried not to pay her any attention, but one day she cornered me near the break room. I'm not leaving, Jack. This cow can fire me if she wants, but I'm not going to give her the satisfaction. I'm not going to let you do it. She left. I stormed angrily to the butcher's office and confronted him about why this cow was still there. Sanders, calm down. I treat her the same as any other administrative assistant. I've had her. She was the best I'd ever seen, and she accepted what I did to her. If she failed, but Franny would stay, as long as she could do the job. She was still standing in front of me, still an executive at Butch's, and it was her resilience that finally dissolved my hatred for her. I just looked at her, and she was an invisible part of my past life. Hello Jack, how are you? When I didn't answer, she continued, do you think we could talk? I paused for a long time. Maybe now is the time. Yes, Franny, I think we could.